friends, it's Elisa, and I am on a care set. I'm not home, so I'm at coming live to you from Lambertville, New Jersey, starting a little bit later than I wanted to, but I needed to take the dog out for a walk. Petey and I walked around town um, on North Union Street, where a lot of the homes are getting done up for Halloween. I'm sure the town is very excited that they get to host Halloween this year, and everybody is out in the evening setting up their spaces. So it looks really cool. It's quite a thing here. It's like huge. They bus people in. They come in from all over. Um, they have a flash mob that dances to Thriller, which is always fun. And everybody dresses up in their Halloween best and their Halloween finest, and it's just such an amazing community. I'm so glad that I lived here part time when I was taking care of my mom, and yeah. So let's get back to no background because I discovered. So you get to see some art behind me that belongs to my brother-in-law, who's an artist. His studio is in Asbury Park, New Jersey. So if you ever visit there, you can go see his art. He has a lot. And then, of course, the other side is outside because I'm sitting on their sun porch. Um, and the dog is over there taking a nap. So I did a bunch of explaining on Tuesday when I first set up to open up Paint by Touch, and I'm very excited about it. And so I thought no matter who or when someone wants to jump in and join, that I would still meet up. I would still show up on the dates that I had planned and do recordings if that is a fit. And so that's what I'm doing tonight, another recording. So it's giving me practice too to speak in front of the Zoom camera. But I've been on a lot of Zoom calls in the past year with the conscious education community, which is part of what will be blended into the experience of Paint by Touch. So I learned Paint by Touch in 2005. It was called something else, but I don't remember what it is now. So Paint Your Way, I think, is the way the artist who created it, how he began it, Paint Your Way. So after using the technique for almost 17 years or just beyond 17 years, I decided to put a little bit of who I am into the process and put it together with things that I love so I can create the life I love, and working through just those working through creating the life I love and doing things that bring me joy. And it's been quite an experience. So 2005, 2006, I learned how to paint with my non-dominant hand. Whoops, got to put that in the camera. Still learning how to do that. This is my non-dominant hand. I'm a righty, so I paint with my left. There we go. And the primary area where you paint is actually in the palm of your hand. And if you know anything about hands, right, you do, right? There's a little like pocket here. Your hand isn't flat for the most part. There's like a pocket here. So when you pour the paint into your hand, it's going to collect there. But you can also close your hand like that if you want to keep the paint in this one area. But otherwise, I would, you keep your fingers closed, and then as much as you can, you want an area or a space where the paint will just touch and your hand won't. So that's part of the technique that I've improvised on, because the idea that I wanted folks to experience was what is the relationship to your hand that you can feel, right? You can rub the palm of your hand and have sensations. You can experience the dent, the pocket in your hand, so that when you hold things, you can actually hold water and drink from your hands, right? There's so many cool things we can do with our hands related to touch. And so it's to have a relationship with your hand, but your skin, but also when the paint gets put into it, what kinds of things can you do from the pocket, right? And what I've learned in, the time frame of painting is that you can straighten your fingers out and the paint will come a little bit more, and then you can turn your hand and the paint will slide down your fingers. But we're not finger painting. You're not necessarily finger painting. The idea is to keep your fingers closed and to let the paint blend, let the paint glide, let the paint do the work. And your hand is just the vehicle holding it. So it really is quite a neat experience. And so that's what I'm hoping people who join the Paint by Touch movement or session are really going to enjoy. So I enjoy sharing my book. Sorry if I move it too much. Sacred Heart Soul Art. So I wrote this book in 2000, I guess it got published 2015 or 2016, one of those. I self-published because I through the process of learning what it is to publish a book, most places, most publishing houses don't want unsolicited work. That kept coming across. And so I learned a lot, and I've learned more from my sister, who is a published author. She's with a publishing house, and that's really cool. So that journey for her has been amazing. So she just finished her second book. But mine self-published, made my business a publishing house, and then learned what it means to publish a book and go through the printing process. And I went with a local printing company because it's color, it's full color. And I learned a lot, like, most books that are full color go to China to be printed. And I really wanted mine to be locally. So I found a community, a local printing company that mostly does yearbooks and other items. But I had met the woman who guided me through the printing process, and I got to know her well, and I'm really grateful I went with them. So they are out of Warrenton, Pennsylvania. See if I can find their name in here. Oh, it's here somewhere. It's in my book. And okay, printed by Astrodynamic. And the other thing I liked about them is that they are solar friendly. They have all these solar panels on their roof. That was really cool. So they're environmentally friendly. That really matters to me. And so, anyway, so the book, actually the first book I made was in Shutterfly, but I didn't want to print the book from Shutterfly. So I found somebody local. I did my research. I found, like I said, an organization that matched my ideals and my beliefs, and very pleased with it. And yeah, so that's that was done. And it does have a cool sticker on it. It is an award-winning book. It's part of New Apple's indie publishing company. They were looking for local writers, and I got to pick the category Spirit, Mind, and Body, and it went for that category. So that was really cool. Anyway, so also about my book, it has the original 13. I painted originally the 13 paintings. And the cool thing about these paintings is that what I liked about them was that they look three-dimensional. So if you sort of let your eyes just sort of go soft focus on the screen, you can see how looking at these for a long period of time, you're going to start seeing three-dimensional objects. And I thought that was really cool. And so after the painting process, every time we painted, the practitioner had everyone share. So there'll be like an art walk, virtual art walk, and we'll get to share what we see, and other people can share and comment on what they see. And then, you could just take all that in just as part of some information if you want to participate in the art walks. And those will be a part of the activity happening on the event happening on October 16th. It's a Sunday. It's Sunday Soul, and you'll be able to bring your art with you. We could do it live, or we could do it virtually, and that I'm hoping to share with people how to build temporary labyrinths. So you can build a temporary labyrinth with your piece of soul art that you create in Paint by Touch. There'll be lots of different information about how to build a temporary labyrinth, how you can create it from the painting that you've made. So we are going to start. I am going to encourage people to begin with watercolor paper or cardboard. So these have been painted on. This is usually a demo when I'm starting to share with people. It's a 12 by 12 piece of paper, watercolor paper. It's got a nice weight to it, and that's what you want, because when you're painting with the acrylics, you don't want it to buckle. So your paper shouldn't be too thin, too lightweight. Cardboard is fabulous. Watercolor is awesome, because when you begin, you don't, I think it's not necessarily, there's nothing wrong with it, but I think if you begin with the paper, then you can explore with the paper more, because there is some flexibility to the paper, as opposed to starting with canvas right away. But that is entirely up to you. That's your call. So like I said, one of the cool things on October 16th, sorry, it's a Sunday, we are going to talk about labyrinths. This is a 7-circuit labyrinth. I'm going to teach you some guidances on how to build your own temporary labyrinth. We're going to work with a seed pattern, because to me, for me, all life begins with a seed, and I like the idea of the seed pattern, because this can look very complicated, right? And you might panic and say, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can draw that. But you will be able to when you have the seed pattern. And I'll show you how to do that. And if you want, you can use your art to create the seed pattern. Like I said, it's entirely up to you. So one of the more important things that we talk about in Paint by Touch is the energy of our hands, the energy of what means. Like, we have energy. Everyone has energy right now coming off their hands. One of the cool ways I used to share that with others, children, or when I was in a business networking group, I just encourage everybody to rub their hands together till you feel warmth between them. And then I'd have them stop, and then I'd have you slowly pull your hands apart and then push them back together. And inside of that area, you should feel something very kind of cushiony, almost like a marshmallow. And the farther you pull your hands apart, you see where you start to feel that energy coming off of your hands. And so I'm going to keep pulling my hands apart. And I'm finding that where my field is, my field of energy. Where is my aura? I'm sure you've heard that word. My field of energy. So it's here. I can feel like I'm pushing against a marshmallow. Or when you put whipped cream in your hand, if you've ever played with the fluff of whipped cream, that you feel like you can move it. Other people in meditations have done something called an energy ball, where you do the exact same thing, and then you feel the size of the ball in your hands, and you can move it around. And you keep going. So you'd be surprised how far out your field is. So you can keep doing that until you want to stop or you get tired. But I know my field is pretty large. So when you think about it, this is not just in front of you, but this is like off of your body, energy coming off your body. So my energy so far is here, but I can keep going and going. So the fastest way, or the quickest way to learn where your field is to do it with your hands, because you can touch it. You'll get a sensation on your hands, and you'll know where your field is. It's one of my favorite things to do with children, because it's always like, wow, do you know how big your field is? And the other cool thing is also talking to children about the fact that they have a rainbow on their body. Did you know you have a rainbow on your body? That's one of my main symbols for myself, is the rainbow. So if I send you a text and there's a rainbow attached, that's my special. So one of the other things that I brought with me, I also encourage people to have a notebook with them, clean slate, pen or pencil or crayon, because you can use fun and as silly as you want. This is my notebook for, I'm in a course, so I take a lot of notes. And I always try to date them. So that's always fun to do too, like dating the top when you painted. Take yourself some notes because there will be some things maybe you haven't heard before that you'd like to take notes on and practice later. And one thing I also did when I was in college is I wrote a book, and it's one of the next books I'm looking forward to getting published, but I would like to work with a publishing company. So there's Voices of the Rainbow. I wrote that in college, and it's always been with me because, like I said, the rainbow is one of my main, or is my main emoji symbol. I don't know, sacred symbol. I'm sure everybody has one, and if you don't, that's another way through painting by touch you can experience and explore who you are, your sacredness, what brings you joy. Art brings me joy, hearts bring me joy. One of the paintings that I made is painting number 10, and it's got a heart in it. And when these are being painted, when these paintings are being made, there isn't really any way to make them turn out the way they turn out. That's the fun thing about this painting process. You're not going to necessarily, when we get together and everybody visits and gets to know each other, if we were live, I would encourage people to put a name tag on with the way you want to be identified. We do some different hands-on activities, and then we do a little meditation, and then we jump in, or we step into the art. And so no matter what you see, no matter whether it's like you get a symbol or a message or a story through your meditation, whatever you pick up, it's not a guarantee that when you start painting, it's going to look like that. Because the whole purpose of painting with non-dominant is that you can't control it. If you were painting with your right or your dominant hand, if I was painting with my right hand, I'd be like, oh yeah, I want to make that and that and that and that. And you can do that. But the idea of paint by touch is that it's abstract. And that as the paint moves and blends on the surface of whatever it is you put it on, it's going to shift and it's going to blend. And so by the time you're done, it might not look like anything. It might just look like mush. But it isn't going to be gray. So when you're done, if you were finger painting, it would be gray, usually a dark gray when you're done. But that's not what you're going to do. So it really is like a really unique way to explore the feeling that we have on our hands, learning to work with the pocket, allowing things to slide, right? So there's different ways. You might, in any of my videos, see me do that, put my hand down or put my hand up and paint is sliding down my arm. When I paint, it goes all the way to my elbow. It's just my process. You don't have to paint that way. But yeah, I ask everybody who comes to the workshop to give it a try. The play shop, give it a try. Give it a try with this technique. And if someone is really not feeling it, or they want to do more, or they want to add to what they're creating, I don't tell people no. I don't make you stop or do anything like that. You can obviously continue and get into the joy. It's getting back to your playground, getting back to your bliss. What makes you happy? Stepping back into possibly early childhood where we had fun. We didn't have to worry about anything. We weren't worrying about life. We were just there having fun. And that's a whole kind of idea about what this is all about. And so this is one of my painting bags. These are great because obviously it's a clear bag and you know what's in it. And I like using things like this in my art studio. So I brought with me a bottle of paint so you can see the brand. Lucas Krill Studio. It's non-toxic. It's out of Germany. It's great for touching skin. It doesn't hurt the environment. A friend researched the paint for me when we first started this project. And so this is where we're at. So then also inside, I've I love recycling and finding things that can be used, you know, that can help support. So these great little drink containers, cardboard, hold the paint bottles that I use. So what I do is I when I learned that we had little containers, they were this big. In some of the videos, you'll see that I'm holding a little and I'm pouring it. But I found this to be more fun. So I bought these, but you can get them, I think someone said at a dollar store, or you can order them from Kitchen Supplies, is where I got all mine. But anything like a bottle of dishwasher soap, or mustard bottles that you squeeze out of, ketchup, if you have that, obviously wait and clean the container and wait till it's all out. The food is out of it. But if you don't want to spend money on the bottles, then you can make your own. But you obviously do want to cover it because, your paint will dry. And I've had that happen too. So when we actually get to a painting process, I will share with the participants how to create the texture and the big word, viscosity of the paint that we want to put on our paintings. This is very thick, and it does pour, but it's very thick. And you don't want it too thin, like these are acrylics, people who pour acrylic pours, those are like water. You don't want your paint to be that thin because you don't want it running off your hand. You want it to sit in the pocket, but you also want it to move. You want some glide. So what I would encourage people to do, those that sign up, will need the Lucas Krill, and you can get it from Jerry's Art Arama. I think they're out of North Carolina. jerrysartarama.com. You can order your paints online and they're shipped to you. You can get really anything you want. It's a really good deal, and they always have specials. So that's what I like about them. And I will ask you to get the primary colors, because when you start with the primaries, like a seed pattern, right? We think about beginning, we all learn the primary colors. So a lot of it does touch on my experience as an early childhood educator, a teacher, and then I also want you to get white. So four colors all together: red, orange, yellow, and white. And then, when you first get them, feel free to keep it in the container. And then when we get to the actual teaching part of how to mix the colors, we can do it together because it could be interactive. And then I also use, when I paint also, I love feathers. So one of my favorite things to use is the quill tip of a feather when I'm creating, especially when I'm creating with my celestial sisters, the women of soul, the guidance I got. I will also work very intuitively. So I get guided ideas and suggestions on what to do with the paint, and I just stay in the flow. And whatever I feel in my body, whatever I'm thinking about, I'm not gonna, if I'm thinking about a barn, I'm not gonna go paint the barn with my fingers. That's not how it happens. But I might use red because a red barn is a happy memory for me. But once the paint leaves your hand and touches the surface, it really is painting. It's another way that I call painting with spirit, or you could say painting with God. You're really just putting the color there, and then you're allowing the flow of the energy around you to blend it. And then when it's all done, there's usually a message waiting for you on the painting. And for me, I didn't see it right away, but a couple of other women in the art walk said, "Wow, I see a lot of women in your paintings." And I'm like, "You do? Where?" So, everybody's suggestions, you never know, it's a support. They're not there to, "Oh, that's kind of weird looking, all these stuff." But they don't, and because everyone who's so into the process is really enjoying it. And another thing I paint with are business cards. I love edges. So something that I painted on the very large womb, or the the big blue as it's called. Um, that's also in some of my social media posts. The painting is 9 feet tall, 4 feet wide, and that was like painted guided by my relationship with my sentient energy team, my spirit team, as I call them. And it was, I think, right before my mother passed, because it was related to her, and to her, today's her birthday. So she's in heaven. And I painted the large blue, the big blue. Um, it was a really warm December 19th afternoon. It was painted up pretty close to last light. I was standing on the deck and I'd gotten guidance to do it. So I grabbed like I just went and grabbed, I had already had this really huge piece of canvas in the house on a roll. I unrolled it, I put it on the deck. I mean, I put down a tarp first, obviously, because I'm renting and I didn't really want to get paint all over the deck, although I can't help that it's there. But eventually it does come off, but not in your clothing. So definitely wear a smock or play clothes or anything you don't mind getting full of paint. Like this shirt has paint on it, on the pocket, because sometimes I paint in this when I'm, but not always. Usually I'm short sleeve because I know the paint goes down to my elbow when I create. So Big Blue, the story of Big Blue. Okay, so it was the evening of December 19th. It was a very warm, unseasonably warm afternoon. And I went outside on my front deck. I laid down a tarp. I put down the size of the canvas piece that I wanted. And I had all my tools with me. And that particular one started out as blue, just a color blue. And I had a great time shopping for it. So I love going to hardware stores, and they always have cans of paint that were created, and so they're not the color somebody wanted. So they're on this, they're like on the second shelf, and that's like treasure. So you never know what you're gonna find. And I've seen some like steely gray blues and other kinds of blues that really just call to me, because blue is also a very healing color for me. And it makes a lot of sense because it represents your throat chakra. So that was a big, that's a big one for me. My keeping my throat chakra open, bringing in joy, playing. So if my throat starts to feel sore, or a long time ago I used to get strep throat a lot, that was just letting me know that my throat chakra was not open, and it really does matter. So I started with blue, and then it started to get dark, and I just kept painting and painting, and I had shoes on. I might have been barefoot too, so I probably stepped in the paint, and eventually you have to wash it off and everything. But it was a really cool experience, and I made a little video about it because it was very profound. And whenever I attended, it's very possible it might happen when I go to San Diego. I'm very excited about that. So I will make sure that I bring, well, I will have the paint by touch with me because I plan to travel with it. And I'll probably have my crayons, pastels. Are they pastels? Yes. No, they're watercolor crayons. That's what they are. I'll probably have those with me so that I can create for my dreams, because I'm sure they're going to be prophetic, something like that. Anyway, yeah. So the Big Blue is related to every time I was on a table. I'm a body worker. A massage therapist, certified in the state of New Jersey. I also know craniosacral, I Reiki. So anytime that I had a healing, because I was learning, I was training and learning, I would be on the table, and all the other practitioners who are also practicing would be working on me as the person, as a client. I always had the most amazing experiences that I was floating in a big pool of blue water, and that's where I felt safe, and that was very healing to me. And it was always me and my mom. And so I would draw pictures like an oval of a woman holding a baby, and that would be, and then I think after a while it was just me and me, you know. Started out with me and my mom, and then it went to me and my inner child. And so I take her out a lot. We go on artist dates. And that's something else that I'm offering to people who are interested in getting to know themselves, having a deeper relationship with yourself, things that you can go do and have fun. That's one of the other things we can do with the labyrinth is you could learn how to make a temporary labyrinth, and then you can set them up anywhere. And then you could take your own self on a date. So there's a lot of fun things that have cropped up since I've started to learn this technique, which to me is very playful. I love doing things with my hands. I'm a potter too, so I love clay and painting and dirt. I like being outside, and I like touching trees, and I like hugging trees, and I'm a nature girl, and I just love anything that you can touch, anything tactile. So that's another reason the paint by touch. It seems like the perfect time right now since there's so much going on in the world, and we really need to find that happy place again. I think it's important to us as a species, as a sentient species, to get back to play and have fun and just allow the vibration of the joy and the vibration of love to be parts of our lives. And I need reminders of that too. But thank goodness my art is all over my house. It's hanging on the walls and everywhere from, well, the big blue, she's in the hallway because it's a huge painting. I said it's 9 feet long, tall, and 4 feet wide. So it does fit in where I live, but it fits down the hallway because there's not a lot of places to put her at the moment. But I've seen her. She's been shown to me on a white wall, like hanging up high as a display on a white wall somewhere. So I'm excited about where that's going to be. But yeah, I'm just really excited. I know this is going to be a wonderful event for anyone who gives it a whirl. I've done this in person. So now we're bringing it virtual, and we're going to see how we can get the experience, going. And if I can, I'm happy to travel to you to have an in-person session to paint. But until then, this is the way. So paint by touch, blessings on the path. I'll see you soon. Much love.